Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me for another Westworld review. Today I will be talking about Season 1, Episode 7, Trompe l'Oeil or Trompe l'Oeil. Sorry if I'm not saying that correctly, not really sure how to say the title, but I'm guessing that it may rhyme. This was kind of an interesting episode overall. I kind of thought the first half of the episode was just okay. Kind of felt like some setup and some filler material, but I did feel like the episode really picked up, and the last 10 minutes was really, really good. So I'll talk about the one subplot in this episode first, which was basically Maeve now wants to leave Westworld, and she's basically listed her two tech friends to help her with this. This was basically just a placeholder in the Maeve storyline, and it was fine, I suppose. But this episode really comes down to two storylines, the first of which is basically Dolores and William, who still have Lawrence along with them. Just making a note of that. And they're basically in some very dangerous territory. This brings them even closer together. And these scenes are a little slow, but they do give us some more characterization on these two characters. We learn some new information that William is actually engaged. This upsets Dolores, but it doesn't stop William and Dolores from basically making out later in the episode. They're definitely getting closer and closer, and William basically tells Dolores that he feels like he can finally be himself for the first time in his life with her, so he definitely cares a lot. They're having some more scenes together, but of course they are interrupted when their train is shot up by some cowboys, which leads to a fight between some cowboys and Indians, of all things, kind of a Western tradition. It was kind of interesting, although the scene didn't really add up to much, other than the fact that it led William and Dolores to the place Dolores has been looking for all this time since the show began. So they part ways with Lawrence, and we leave off there, and it will be interesting to see where this storyline goes from there. As Lawrence says, this is basically uncharted territory, so we don't know what to expect. These scenes were fine, but the real meat of the episode comes in basically the other main storyline going on. Basically, Teresa and Charlotte meet up. Charlotte is the lady we met last week, who's one of the head of the board of Westworld, and they plot basically to replace Ford. They decide they're going to create this fake test with Clementine where she goes haywire and she gets beat up. Then she beats a guy up, which was kind of interesting. They basically blame Bernard for this, which is their ultimate goal. Bernard gets fired because Teresa wants to get the position ultimately from Charlotte. And Bernard surprisingly goes along with this without much fuss. We'll find out why very soon. And you can tell that Ford is not amused by this at all. So eventually Bernard lures Teresa to this secret lab, and Ford is there. Turns out this was all a setup. Bernard got Teresa to let her guard down. He basically lured her there. And Ford tells Teresa that basically she's in a lot of trouble, and Bernard actually does eliminate Teresa in this episode. She's a goner. This was pretty shocking, and the last 10 minutes of this episode really saved it, in my opinion. It was amazing, with some really good acting from Jeffrey Wright, who we find out now is one of the hosts, which is something a lot of people have speculated on. I'm not sure if I like this direction or not, but we'll see where it goes from here. And it turns out Bernard has been working for Ford this whole time. And I have to say that Anthony Hopkins was especially menacing here. And we're getting a little bit more of Ford's motives, and we also know not to mess with him. So I would suggest everyone on the show to look out from here. A few other things about this episode. We didn't get any Man in Black, no Teddy. We didn't find out anything about what happened to Elsie. I'm not sure when all that stuff is going to come out. But basically, this whole episode relied on the big twist, revelation, and shock of the last 15 minutes. And in that it worked, although I did feel some of the episode was slow and just set up and filler. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not this late in the season. So overall, this episode was a success. Trompe l'Oeil, I guess is how I'll say it. And I'm going to give this episode a 3.5 out of 5. The show still has me interested as to what's going to happen in the weeks to come. So a 3.5 out of 5 for this week's episode of Westworld. And as always, thank you very much for watching.